Hi there, this is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video we're discussing The Body on the Beach, written by Anna Johannsen. Here's the book. It's the debut book in a series. It's called the Island Mystery Series. I thought it was an okay book. It is a police procedural, so if you don't like police procedurals, you probably won't enjoy this book. It's not as good as the Bosch books. They're also a police procedural series, but there's something extra in them, something extra in the character that kind of stands out in those books. It didn't stand out so much in this book. I've got hopes though that if I go further in this series, they may get better, because this is the first book in the series. But it just didn't stand out as being wonderful. There are some parts I think that could have been developed more, especially given where the book is set. But I think it's okay for a debut novel. A main character, Lena, is called in by her superior officer with information on a case that he wants her to investigate. The crime was committed, or the supposed crime, was committed in a small island community called Amrum. And this is where Lena grew up. So she knows the community quite well and still knows a lot of the people in this small community quite well. And on the cover of the book, on the blurb, it suggests that this will be a place where there's a lot of gossip, a lot of rumours that'll be flying around. And you get a sense that in this small community that may happen, because in small communities people seem to know everybody and they seem to know what everybody's doing. But I found in this book that didn't happen so much. You know, that local gossip mill, that gossip vine that you'd expect in a book like this, in this small town setting, it didn't happen. And it seemed that the characters Lena came across were opposed to gossip. So I got the sense that Blurb wasn't giving the true story in that, and that whole atmosphere didn't develop in this book. And I think it's a shame, because in this small setting, it opens up the possibility to bring in that atmosphere element into the story. You know, the local gossip driving people's opinions and what people think of each other. Are they going to talk badly about somebody because of gossip? What's the bad feeling between certain people in the village and how that plays out? That didn't come to the forefront in this story. And I think it's a shame, because this book may have been a bit better if the author had have included that into the story. The crime basically is about a guy who's found dead on the beach. Hence the title, The Body on the Beach. They suspect that it was a heart attack. Nobody suspected foul play at first. But then Lena's superior officer, he's got a hunch that it may have been some sort of poison, some toxin. And he thinks it may have been a toxin from the tropics somewhere, maybe even a toxin that nobody really knows about. So he's sending Lena up there to investigate that possibility. Did somebody murder him? And he's a guy that with his wife, they run a care home for children. There's rumours going on about the care home, maybe, about him, maybe. How did he afford this huge house that on this island where property is very expensive? How do you afford this huge house when homes for children like this don't make a lot of money? You know, where did he get his money from to start this in the first place? Because as they go on, they find out that the house was probably worth about 800,000 euros or more, and then there were renovations done to the house, so the whole cost could have been 1.5 million euros by the end of it. How did this guy afford all this? That's a big component of this story and plays into the investigation quite a lot. Lena has another officer working with her or for her called Johan, and together they're a good team. They seem a good mix. And the investigation follows on in this book as you expect a police procedural to follow on. So we have a lot of interviews with suspects, and in those interviews, suspects try to be a bit cagey sometimes, you know, keep secrets to their chests, and we have a lot of dialogue going back and forth between Lena and Johan and the suspects. They're trying to push the suspects for more info. The suspects are trying to hold things back. And we have a lot of suspects in this small community. And so in police procedurals, a lot of the time is spent in this dialogue and with the investigators going back to suspects again and again as they present new information they've found out in the case and drawing out more from those suspects or just the people they're interviewing. The author tried to throw in a twist here and there, but they were kind of telegraphed early on in the book, so they weren't surprising at all. So I think the author failed in that element to put the twists there. What I did like about this book, though, was the island setting. Just the fact that you feel a bit secluded from big city life. The story is set in an island where people seem to still enjoy a quieter life. And I found that quite interesting, because it adds a bit more atmosphere into the story. And also with Lena returning to a place where she grew up, that adds atmosphere as well, because she's got some bad memories about where she grew up, and it concerns her father. We get hints of it through the book, and we get more stronger hints as the book progresses, but I wish the author had brought in maybe her father into the story. You know, them two meeting in the story, add a bit more tension in there with the Lena character. I think we needed that, because we just get hints at the edges. We never see her father, and I think it would have been better if we had seen the father character in this story. I get the impression the author wanted, just a strong storyline to draw people into the series. It does work because the characters, Lena and Johan, make for some interesting characters as they're investigating, and the suspects on the island and the characters they meet on the island are also quite interesting, and so is that whole island element. I hope that future books in this series, and I haven't read any more in this series yet, I hope they're also on this island or in the same type of communities, small communities, because I like that atmosphere. Sometimes the big city atmosphere takes away from the characters in the book and the story itself. I like that secluded, small village atmosphere. It just added something to this story. Lena, our main character, she's a good character. She seems very real, very lifelike, and she's very believable. All her motivations, all her actions in this book seem real. The author's done a great job in crafting this character. She has a bit of history as well, a bit of backstory, and I like the way that was tied in to where they're investigating the crime. It gave the character more substance, more depth, and there's a lot of light and shade in this character. And she seems also a bit fun in the way she investigates things. She doesn't always toe the line. She's not averse to tripping over that line and trying to find out clues and find out facts about people in not so legal means. She has this guy she brings up that she saved from going to jail, and this guy's a hacker of sorts, and she brings him up quite often in this book asking him for help. And anything she finds out, of course, wouldn't be used in a case, couldn't be used in court, but she's not averse to going other avenues to find out info. And I found that quite interesting with this character, and I think that means this character is going to be very interesting as the series goes on. Johan, who is Lena's subordinate in this book, he's very interesting. He's got a bit of depth to him as well. There are moments in this book where it's suggested that he may not be trustworthy. Is he going to be on Lena's side? He's very friendly, we're told, with other people in the force who may not like Lena so much. Does that mean that Johan's going to be trouble for Lena if Lena steps over the boundaries and does things wrong in this case? You don't know that through this book, and that adds a lot of depth in the characters because you don't know if Johan can be trusted 100%. So I think that makes for an interesting character, and it just adds something to their partnership in this book. Detective Superintendent Wonky. We don't see him a lot in this book. We see him at the very start when he sends Lena on her case, and we just see him in dialogue mostly when she's calling him up to give updates on the case or to get help, to get warrants for this, warrants for that. But it's worth a mention because there's history between these two characters. Even before the book starts, there's history. It involves another case that Lena was on, and she did something wrong. I'm not sure what it actually was, but it seems that Wonky wanted to demote her. But somebody stepped in and protected her, and so she wasn't demoted. So there's a lot of bad blood between these two, a lot of tension, and Lena was never sure why he sent her on this case? Was he sending her on this case to fail? So all the time Lena's on this case, she's thinking about that, and that adds more to this character. And it gives this character, this superintendent, more depth. Even though we don't see him very often, we only see him at the start and with dialogue, he has a lot of depth in this book, and he has a big presence, bigger than the number of pages we see him on. So that was a clever way to bring the relationship between these characters into the book, and a clever way to make this character larger than life in the mind of our main character, Lena. Body on the Beach is a good first book in a series. We get a good introduction to the characters and their relationships between each other. I like the way a main character goes about getting facts and info on people, that she's not averse to breaking the rules, even though she may get in trouble for doing so. I think that adds something to her character, adds a bit of fun into the books as well. I rate this a 3 out of 5. It's a strong book. It's not the best police procedural I've ever read, but I do think this series has a lot of room to improve and grow. And if I continue on with this series, I hope it does, because I get a sense that the author can write a better book than this one. It's still a strong book, better than average. It's not perfect. I do review other crime novels on my channel. If you don't want to miss out on those videos, check out my channel and subscribe. Also, check out the crime playlist on my channel. It should be on your screen now.